Hello everyone. Welcome to this video proposing a study on the topic of natural rights and state power in the American Revolution. It is widely recognized by historians of the American Revolution that natural law theory and its corresponding concept of natural rights played a significant role in the ideological justification for the American Revolution. The Founding Fathers were adamant that the Revolution was a struggle between liberty and tyranny. From their perspective, the British government, both the King and Parliament, were attempting to take away the constitutional rights the colonists possessed as English citizens and the natural rights they inherently possessed as men. In response to this perceived tyranny, the American colonists asserted their natural rights and claimed the supremacy of those rights over governmental actions. In essence, they were arguing that natural law and natural rights trump the powers of the state. While all historians must recognize the presence of natural law theory in the American Revolution, there are differing views on the legitimacy or importance of the natural rights argument as the true foundation of the American Revolution. The legitimacy of the natural rights argument was questioned in the early 20th century with the emergence of the progressive school of history. Progressive historians shifted their emphasis away from ideas such as liberty and natural rights and began to focus more on social struggles as the driving forces in history, in particular class struggles. Arthur Schlesinger's 1919 work, The American Revolution Reconsidered, is an example of the progressive approach to the American Revolution. Schlesinger argued that the revolution was begun by the economic elites in the colonies, the wealthy merchants and planters, who saw their economic interests threatened by increased imperial control in the 1760s and 70s. The view of the American Revolution as a struggle between liberty and tyranny made a resurgence with the rise of the neo-consensus approach to history in the 1940s and 50s. With the neo-consensus renewed emphasis on ideas, the study of natural law returned to a prominent place among works by professional historians. Edmund Morgan and Helen Morgan's The Stamp Act Crisis, published in 1953, focused attention on the idea of constitutional rights as the cause of the American Revolution. In the mindset of the American colonists, the passage of the Stamp Act by Parliament, an act of taxation without representation, was a clear threat to their rights as English citizens. While constitutional rights received the most attention in this work, it is also recognized that American arguments in defense of their constitutional rights were backed up with claims to natural rights. For the colonists, constitutional rights were based on natural rights and were an expression of natural law principles. Trevor Colburn's The Lamp of Experience, published in 1965, shows the connection between English Whig historians and the American Revolution. The American colonists were avid readers of history, and many works by Whig historians could be found on their bookshelves. Whig historians and their colonial leaders tended to identify English rights with natural rights. In their view, England's unwritten constitution had long embodied and protected the natural rights of its citizens, but that was no longer true in the 1770s. Revolution was the logical action for people who valued their civil and natural rights and believed those liberties were in mortal danger. So the colonists revolted in 1776. Recent historical works have continued to emphasize the importance of the struggle over rights in the American Revolution. But a key question debated by historians is whether the rights the colonists were fighting for were their constitutional rights or their natural rights. Jack Green's The Constitutional Origins of the American Revolution, published in 2011, argues that the revolution was a struggle over constitutional rights. In his analysis, the rights the colonists believed they possessed as Englishmen were based on custom and usage. They were fighting for their constitutional rights, and the reference to natural rights in the Declaration of Independence was a deviation from the colonists' main strand of argument. Andrew Forsyth's Common Law and Natural Law in America, published in 2019, shows the deep connection between common law and natural law in the English and American mind in the 18th century. The terms were virtually synonymous in the minds of the revolutionary generation. They saw their constitutional rights as Englishmen, which were grounded in the common law tradition, as being derived from their natural rights as men. Thus, it was natural for the colonists to refer to their natural rights in the constitutional struggles with Britain. A fruitful area for study that many of these historians touch upon, but still has many unexplored dimensions, is the founders' understanding of the relationship between natural rights and state power. A study of this subject could shed light on two key areas: the right of revolution invoked by the founders in 1776, and the restrictions placed on the powers of both the state governments and the federal government by the constitutions crafted during the Revolutionary era. The study proposed in this video will focus on that relationship between natural rights and the limits of state power. An exploration of this concept in the thought of the Massachusetts founders would be particularly beneficial due to this state's disproportionately large impact on the Revolution. Massachusetts was the epicenter of the contentious events that drove the American colonies to declare independence. A study into the natural rights theories held by the Massachusetts revolutionaries will help to explain why this one colony and later state played such a significant role in the Revolution. It will also help to illustrate how America's founding generation understood the relationship between natural rights and the limits of state power. Thank you.